Chapter 0, Lesson 4, on adding and subtracting rational numbers. Remember, rational numbers are anything we can write as a fraction, so we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting fractions. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is how to compare rational numbers. So if we have two fractions, two decimals, a fraction and a decimal, how do we compare them? We have two different options, so this isn't step 1, step 2. This is either or. So method 1 is if we have two fractions, get the same denominator, if it's an easy one to switch, and then compare the numerators, and whichever one's bigger is bigger. Or use method 2 and change both of them to decimals. So you can use either one of these methods. So if we look at the first fractions to compare, 2/3 and 5/6, well, I noticed that their denominators are really easy to get the same. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to change this 2/3 to be 4/6, and then it's really easy to compare, and I can say that 5/6 is bigger than 4/6. On the other one, I have 2/9 and 3/8. So I could get them both to be a denominator out of 72. Or I could just, on my calculator, do 2 divided by 9, and I get 0.2 repeating. And then I can do 3 divided by 8, and I get 0.375, which tells me that 3/8 is bigger than 2/9. Okay, if I'm going to add and subtract fractions that have the same denominator already, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add or subtract, whichever the sign tells me to do, the numerator. So I take the two numerators and I add or subtract them. So let's go ahead and do that in the example. So 4 minus 7 is -3. And then I just keep the same denominator. So my denominators are already both 9s, and I just keep it a 9. And then I simplify. Okay, so 3/9 simplifies to 1/3. Now, if one of the numbers is negative and the other is positive, that's going to make the whole fraction negative. So -1/3 would be my answer. Okay, and then what happens when I want to add and subtract and the fractions do not have the same denominator? Well, the first thing I have to do is get common denominators. So I have to make equivalent fractions and make the two denominators the same. And then I do the same thing before. Add and subtract numerators, keep the same denominator, and simplify. So I'm going to make these both be out of 20. So if I do 5 times 4 is 20, 2 times 4 is 8, 4 times 5 is 20, 3 times 5 is 15. So 8/20 minus 15/20. So 8 minus 15 is -7, and I keep the same denominator. But then I want to rewrite that fraction. It can't simplify the numbers, but I have one negative, one positive, so it's a -7/20 as my final answer.